gonna. Sorry about that. So welcome to our live stream tonight. So I don't know whether to call it a Monday night panel on the sofa. So it's going to be a fixture release special. So thank you for joining us. We've got some guests on, but let's bring Vic on first.
Hi, Chris.
Oh, hi, how are you?
Hi. I'm very well, thank you. Sun's shining. It's a lovely day. Can't complain, can we? Hi. Fixtures are out. We know where we're going next 10 months. So that's that, really.
Yeah. Well, we know some of where we're going. Sometime over the weekend that we'll be going, but so should we bring our guests on?
Yes, let's do that. Yes.
So we have.
Good evening.
Good day. Good day.
Andrew.
Rob's disappeared, but never mind. You'll get him back. Andrew's disappeared now. Darren's coming on. Hi, Darren. Hi, Rob again.
Oh, we've got Darren. We've got Rob.
It's like Celebrity Squares, isn't it?
I just changing positions.
Who we got? We've got Andrew, Darren.
It's a fluid formation tonight.
Yeah, who's going to come on now? Right. And Andrew. And last but not least. Oh, it's the weather,
it's
obviously.
The heat. It's getting into it. Yeah, it's not.
I can't get Paul for some reason. It's the heat.
Wait, Mr. Bowden's arrival very shortly. Yeah. And there he is. Hello. Good evening to you.
Good. Yeah, a few technical issues, but yeah, we're all here.
So we've got everybody now. Yes, we have.
Yes, we have. Yeah.
Right, I'm going to leave you, and I will speak to you later.
Thanks, Chris. A little bit delayed, but that'll be the heat and the internet, so we can't have everything, can we? Gentlemen, a very good evening to you on Fixture Release Day. Always an exciting day for anybody who follows the football team, because we know where we're going in the next 9 or 10 months, except for the times of those games, of course, which we shall discuss in a little while. A couple of things, Paul, if I might come to you first and foremost. On Monday night, we had the great Alan Mays paying tribute to Andy Rowland, of course, who sadly passed away last week. You will have known Andy Rowland very well. Have you got a few words to say about the great man?
Yeah, absolutely. Really sad news to hear of his passing, and obviously condolences to all his family and close friends. I put it on our WhatsApp group with the 90s guys, and they all send their best wishes to his family as well. Andy was a real honest, hard-working man. Obviously, I only saw him as a coach. I never quite saw him as a player the time I came to the club, and he'd retired from playing. But always hard-working, honest. If you asked him a question about the coaching or whatever we were doing, it was always a straight, honest answer. I actually went up to Florida one year and met him and his wife out there, and we spent a couple of days with them. So great memories. And unfortunately, very, very sad time for everybody who knew him and certainly his close family.
Absolutely. And another thing I should ask you about, of course, was Romania drawing tonight against Slovakia, which means they're top of Group E and are through to the knockout stages. I'm asking you that because you're an honorary Romanian now for your recent trip to the country to play in that wonderful game with Jose Mourinho and all those people. So you're now following them as your team.
Absolutely. They're certainly, as well as the home nations, of course. They were my pick, really, because they're quite an exciting young team. And having seen them now progress to the knockout stage, I'm sure they'll be really pleased. With Belgium in your group, maybe they perhaps underachieve a little bit with the players they've got in their lineup. But Romania will be delighted, and they'll get stronger as the competition goes on, I'm sure.
All right, we'll get everybody's thoughts on who might win this thing a little later. Darren, a very good evening to you, and welcome along. I know you've been on before, but nice to have you back with us. So thank you very much for joining us.
That's really kind, Vic. Delighted to be here.
Rob, I think you've been on once or twice, haven't you, before? Is that right?
The odd occasion, yeah, absolutely. Nice to be here, though.
Mr. Hawes, I know you've had a lot of dental work done today, so we very much appreciate your presence tonight.
Yes. This for some of you, this may be the last time you see one of my teeth before it makes its way elsewhere.
Well, we pay tribute to your tooth. That's all I can say, and we wish it well on its onward journey. That's all we can say. Right, let's go around the panel. Paul, here we are. You're a former professional footballer, of course. Fixture release date. How do professional footballers view that?
Well, it's something you always look forward to, for sure, to see where you go in and around the Christmas time, the festive period. Which way will you be going up the motorway? Is it a local derby or is it a long trip? I remember Newcastle won Boxing Day. That was a long trip traveling on Christmas Day. But no, it's an exciting time. I think whether you're new to the club or you've renewed your contract, this is the day which you look out for in that summer break. But as we probably know, most of the boys have either come back for testing by now or they're due in probably next week. So it's quite close to pre-season training. But no, it's an exciting time as a coach and as a player, for sure.
So the whole of pre-season is building up to that. Well, not one game, but the whole season as a whole. But that's where your focus is, on that first game, is it?
Yeah, I mean, once the season finishes, if you've gained promotion, obviously it's extra exciting with the new level of football that you're going to be playing at. I mean, for example, when we won at the playoffs, I mean, we none of us could wait to see the fixtures come out then, to go and see when we're playing at Old Trafford and Highbury and White Hart Lane, to name a couple. But no, I think it's always exciting. It was for me personally. I'd like to think most other players, having generally, in fact, I've had a few texts today about, various teams playing on certain opposition. So, it certainly captures mine and friends of mine. And it is a good day today to find out exactly where you'll be playing.
And can I quickly ask you about Billy, because he was released by those people up the road? Has he got plans yet? Is he sorted?
Well, he's got a couple of options, and even as close to home as the mighty Robins, Swindon. There's a little bit of dialogue with his agent, so there's a bit of to-in and fro-in, and the agents tend to do most of the work. Bill's actually spoke to two managers, but in the main, it's the agent who does a lot of the work before it gets, pretty close. So as I say, I mean, Swindon are interested. They've made that, aware to his agent, and he was due to actually meet Mark Kennedy last week, but for one reason, Mark, it didn't quite come off. But yeah, so there's a genuine interest, as well as a number of other first division and second division clubs.
Intriguing. Billy wasn't wearing yellow at the time. That wasn't why the meeting was called off.
Maybe he had his shirt on from the playoff final, which where he never got minutes. I don't know.
Oh, no, don't go there. Don't go there. Thank you very much indeed for that, Paul. Darren, how do you look forward to fixture release date? With a great deal of excitement?
Yeah, I think it's that time of year where you're in that pause, you're waiting for the season with all of the excitement. So every football fan can be optimistic. And that's the element. There's that degree of excitement over who's being signed. But there's the certainty that the fixture list brings. So the day it comes out, poring over it, starting the planning. And of course, there's always the excitement of the first 4 or 5 games, and of course, the bank holiday ones as well. So, no, full of optimism and a great day.
Yeah, we'll go through all the signings and everything in a little while. So, how much excitement there is, of course, we'll leave it to the individual fans. So, this is from Nikki. Now the fixtures are out, buzzing for the season. And Paul says, I can't wait for the first fixture. I've been waiting 6 years for this. I'm not quite sure why. Is he a Chesterfield fan? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe probably is. Carol says fixture release day. Only thing virtually guaranteed is Town will be away on Boxing Day. We've had, I think, it's 3 home games on Boxing Day in the last 18 years. Well, we are away on Boxing Day. We can confirm that. Rob, how do you always feel when this happens?
Well, it does give us that little release, doesn't it? We've had so long, it feels like, since the end of the last season, and obviously 2023, 2024 is not going to be renowned and live long in the memory, is it? Let's be honest, in terms of great football. So it feels like we've had an even longer break this year, probably, than before. Obviously, the signings that have come in gives you that little bit more feel for the season. And when the fixtures come out, you've got your obvious treks that you always look for when you're a fan who goes away from home, haven't you? First of all, everyone looks for the first day of the season. Personally, I look for Carlisle away and Barrow away. When have I got to go there, and is it not a Tuesday night? That's my priorities, and it's not this year, so that's a bonus. I can't say Colchester in December on a Tuesday night fills me with great optimism and excitement, but Chesterfield away on the opening day, to be fair, in this season where they've come up from non-league after a couple of seasons and have got a crest of a wave and quite a lot of backing behind them, that's probably the standout fixture of the first day of the season. So it's a good one for Town to be involved in, and obviously the cameras have decided that they want to show us as well. So a good chance very early in the season for Swindon to put a marker down.
Yeah, Friday night at 8 o'clock on Sky, Andrew. Of course, I think there are 4 league matches on Friday night, aren't there, that kick off at 8 o'clock. In League One on Saturday, 6 of their games kick off at 5:30. So you arranging commentaries, that's going to, well, for all of us, it's all going to be a bit of a muddle, isn't it, to be fair?
Yeah, I think I was sort of double checking the kind of details of the new Sky deal, and I think they will select, I believe it's 5 matches across League One and League Two each weekend for sort of broadcast on the kind of Plus platform, whatever that is, without because I'm not a Sky spokesman, so I don't know exactly. So you know that there are going to be some games that will be moved around, whether it to be a Friday night or Saturday evening. So we're going to have to accept that. The only thing, to be fair to them, is we already know the opening day has been moved. They have promised that they will give all their sort of scheduled games by January before the start of the season, I think. So in theory, people should have time at least to sort of make arrangements for those. But of course, there aren't many ways, I would imagine, to get back from Chesterfield and Swindon at 10 o'clock on a Friday to start with.
No, you might remember that last time we played Chesterfield on a Friday, I was reminded of this earlier on today. It was postponed because of a floodlight failure, and we all came home, and then we all went back up the following day and won 3-0, if I remember rightly.
I didn't think we wanted the opening fixture postponed in consecutive seasons. That would be quite a special achievement.
Yeah, actually, more explanation from Paul, who sent that in. Swindon fan who lives in Chesterfield, and his grandson is a Chesterfield fan, so that should be an interesting one. Lee says, love away on Boxing Day. These changes in times, Paul, I mean, for players, of course, that's another factor to throw in. And this is going to be a new development, isn't it? So I guess the whole week is focused on the kickoff time when you eat your meals, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, there's plenty of time in between, isn't there? So pre-season, as I said, I think it's starting on the 1st for most teams. So there's a 5-week build-up, and the preparation will literally be all around that Friday night. So, yeah, I mean, I think players get used to it now a lot more than perhaps in our day. My day, it was generally a 3 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday or a Sunday if it was a big game or a cup game. So, yeah, slight adjustments, but I think the modern player is well used to the new arrangements that are in place now.
Yeah, Darren, how many games are you going to attend this year? Because you're joining the ranks of the retired, along with the likes of me. So are you going to get to many games this season?
I'm expecting to get to host more than I have done in the last few years, for sure. And I just need to balance that retirement, because it's certainly not going to be a full retirement. It's a retirement from Career 1. So I've just got to work out what Career 2 might look like. But, I think there's a lot of fixtures to look forward to this year. There's some big games in there. And to the point that's been made earlier, it's about being able to plan and understand the timings to get to those. And that's, football fans are part of the community. People work really hard to earn their money, and they want to spend it on the football. And we need to make it as easy as possible for people. So the earlier the dates and the timings come out, the better for me, because people need to plan their lives. Yeah,
it does sort of smack this deal, Rob, that football fans are kind of secondary to televised football. I just, most of us want it to be 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon or 7:45 on a Tuesday night. We can deal with that, can't we? But, people have to travel and get to and from games. And I think that's the least of football fixtures sort of thinking these days, it seems to me.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I guess for the fan at our level, the Premier League sold itself out to the TV companies a long, long time ago, didn't they? And as a result of that, they rule the roost, don't they? It's up to them when they decide kickoffs are going to be, and it's up to them when they decide what days they're going to be. And the poor old football supporter, they've had it a lot longer than we have up in the Premier League. They're secondary and not even considered at all, I'm afraid. And when you see the likes of Newcastle and Southampton having Tuesday night games away to each other and things like that, Wednesday night games, you know fully well that there's something wrong with the way the computer comes out with these things. But that's the world we live in now, and you either accept it and don't go, or you run with it. And like the rest of us, we'll be up and down that motorway covering thousands of miles again this year.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it already. What about iFollow, Andrew? Is that no more?
I believe the way it works is if you're in the UK, you and you want to see the kind of midweek games like you could last season in the League Cup games and the game Sky selects, I believe you have to have whatever Sky subscriptions required. But I think if you're overseas, my understanding is iFollow continues in its current form. So find your chateaus and enjoy yourself.
Yes, indeed. Rent a house in France. That would be the best thing. Right, Paul, let's go through August then. Chesterfield away, as we know. That's a Friday night, an exciting one. They've just come up after a lengthy spell away from the league. Walsall at home on the 17th. Crewe away on the 24th. And Notts County at home on the 31st. And, of course, to throw into that somewhere is a League Cup draw, which is tomorrow afternoon, I believe. So how do you see that opening month?
Well, I think it's quite tough, to be honest. I mean, Notts County were pushing for the playoffs last year. Crewe got in the playoffs. Chesterfield, the opening game would be a sellout, obviously, although it's poor timing, in my opinion, as well. I agree with all the guys. To expect supporters to go up on that late Friday and try and get home is ridiculous. But it is what it is, as the guys have said. So I think it's a really tough start. Chesterfield, anything we can get up there would be a bonus, in my opinion. They've strengthened even last year. You look at their squad they had. Very, very powerful squad. I mean, they won the league by a country mile. And they're going to be a force again. I think a little bit like Wrexham in that respect. On the back of winning promotion, they'll be looking to go again. It wasn't that long ago that they were a football league club in the championship. So it's going to be tough. Notts County, I think, will be tough again. Crewe, they'll try and build. Although Crewe maybe slightly overachieved last year, but I just think tough games. Walsall with a team that struggled a bit. So definitely your first home game with a new manager, new group of players. You'll be certainly looking to get a home win and get the season up and running because, as we all know, last year was disappointing, so to say the least. So tough opening game, but then you've certainly got to look at the home game and get 3 points in the bag and build confidence from there if you don't get something at Chesterfield.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, Chesterfield sort of will be a bit like Wrexham last year, and of course they have no salary cap. Well, they don't have that problem again when they come up for the National League, do they?
No. So I'm sure they'll take full advantage of that. But yeah, I mean, a big club that went down, probably too far for a lot of people. But, when you look back now in hindsight, maybe it was the best thing. I'm sure they've sorted all their finances out. They've got a good manager in Cook. And as I said, he's put a real good squad together in the lower echelons. But that league is a real strong league as well. So for them to win it as well as they did, I think just shows you how strong Chesterfield will be coming up this season as well with a few additions.
Sure. Lovely stadium as well. Okay, Darren, let's go on to September. Barrow away on a Saturday in September, the 7th. Seems quite nice, bearing in mind it's either December or at the end of the season, but we'll get that one out of the way on the 7th. On the 14th, it's Newport at home. The 21st is Carlisle at home. And then on the 28th, it's a game many Swindon fans will be interested in. And bearing in mind the last time we went there, all the horrible memories will come back. Port Vale away. How do you see September?
I'm with Paul in terms of I think August is tough, could have been tougher. So going into September, I think getting Barrow out of the way early on will be a really good indicator for us as to where we are. Yeah, they came in 8th, I think, at the back end of last season, had a bit of a tricky finish coming over the finish line. And of course, we had a result there. Newport will be interesting because without a manager at the moment, they've clearly, with the chairman there, has got lots of experience, lots of ambition. So will they have time to put a squad together, and will they still be sort of finding their feet? And then, of course, two sides that have come down in Carlisle and Port Vale. So I think, yeah, September's a good test of us. We'll have an understanding of where we are and whether we've come together. So it's not a bad, for me, the first 10 games could be an awful lot worse than they are. I think Chesterfield as an opener is really difficult. There's no getting away from that. And as Paul said, Paul Cook's been there since 22, 12 points clear of Barnet. They're going to be strong. So it's not reading too much into the first game and just build a bit of momentum through August and September.
Fair enough. Port Vale away, Rob. Enough said about that. I think that horrible night there. Paul says on the subject of Chesterfield, 161 miles that time of night, 2.5 hours home. But getting there here on a Friday, you're looking at nearer 4. Friday in August on the motorways. Discuss. Okay, let's move on to October then. Tranmere Rovers away on the 1st, which is a Tuesday night. Harrogate at home. Cheltenham away, those pesky people from Cheltenham away. That is on the 12th of October. Doncaster at home on the 19th. Salford away on a Tuesday night, the 22nd. And then wrapping October up with Gillingham at home on the 26th. So some midweek away trips there, Rob.
Yeah, thanks very much. Although October normally is, isn't it? That seems to be the month when we do start getting Tuesday night treks always every year, and they've not let us down with both Tranmere and Salford in the same month within 3 weeks of each other. Heaven forbid there's a cup run, but should we get another Tuesday night thrown in there as well, then that would be lovely, wouldn't it? But it's tricky, isn't it? When you look at the away fixtures, they're games we don't tend, apart from Salford, they're games that we don't tend to pick many points up at. We all know our track record at Wadden Road. I know it's got to change because it's going to change this year, because I'm determined to make sure it changes this year. All my lovely friends up in Cheltenham know fully well I'm determined for it to change this year. But the home games for me, I think Doncaster are going to be one of the strongest teams in the division this year. I think that one is very tough. We know we've got a reputation with Gillingham. That one will always be a fixture that Swindon Town fans of yesteryear will remember. So that'll be tough as well. And we seem to not do very well against Harrogate at home, do we? They always seem to be able to pinch a point generally here. So they're games that are tricky games. And I think, to be fair, I think when you've looked at August and September, they're tricky games too. So if Swindon can come out at the end of October, I think towards the playoffs, if not in the playoffs, we'll be looking at a very, very strong start to the season against some quite difficult sides.
Mike Flynn at Cheltenham, of course, throw that one into the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. And there isn't any real rivalry with Cheltenham, I don't think, because obviously we haven't played each other that often. But I've got my own individual battles with that club and their supporters. So I should be specially looking out for that one.
We've been so close to winning there in the FA Cup. Remember the FA Cup?
Don't go there, Vic. Don't go there.
No, we won't. I've only got 3 games for you in November, Andrew, because 9th is MK Dons. Accrington, that's away. Accrington away on the 16th. And then on the 23rd, it's Morecambe at home. I'm assuming FA Cup dates will be thrown into the mix there. Oh, he's gone quiet all of a sudden.
Sorry, yes, that's better. I think the first Saturday in November is FA Cup. Yay! I suppose the serious point is if there's an away FA Cup draw and you look at that, you could have almost a month without a home game, because you'll go from like the last Saturday in October where you've got Gillingham at home, and then you've got Morecambe at home on sort of November the 23rd. But as for the actual games, you'd assume MK Dons would be strong, but I've heard a very interesting story that there was quite a internal meltdown, shall we say, around the playoffs. So I'll be very interested to see how many of that squad remain, quite how MK Dons change and fix that. Will still be difficult. Accrington obviously brings us the most memorable heebie-jeebies of about 10 seasons from last year, which I'm still not over. And then Morecambe, who have their own, sort of considerable problems to deal with, although they've got Derek Adams back again. You feel that's if we're going to do anything, that's a sort of home fixture you'd look to nail down 3 points from.
And who knows, it might be in the second round of the FA Cup, but
it's theoretically possible.
It is theoretically possible. I don't know if it's actually probable, but it's always possible. Right, some more comments coming. What sort of allocation do we get at Cheltenham? Well, we don't know yet. That's not been
Cheltenham.
revealed. Yeah,
We'll get the behind the goal and a little bit down the side. So we'll
Yeah,
have
that's
probably
what
about
normally
1,500.
Yeah, that's what normally happens, isn't there?
Mm.
Port Vale says, Sean, I think there'll be a big turnout there. And Friday the 9th booked off straight away as soon as the fixtures came out. So there you are, days off at work. Less of the pesky from Cheltenham, says Sean Sid. That's where I live and cannot take another loss at Wedden Road. I have to say, they're always very hospitable there, and they've got a very nice social club, and then they beat us. It's that simple. And I think we're going to have a tight defence this season at last. Well, we'll get into that a little later on. December then, Paul. This is how it pans out. December the 3rd, that's a Tuesday night. Colchester away, day after my birthday. Happy birthday. 7th, Fleetwood at home. 14th, Bradford City away. 21st, Grimsby at home. 26th, Wimbledon away. And then the 29th, which is a Tuesday, Bromley away. Obviously, 1,600 full away allocation at Cheltenham. Thank you very much. Right. December. Football fans look forward to it. Busy time for footballers. Christmas and all that stuff. How does that look to you?
Well, hopefully by then we will have picked up a bit of momentum. We started quite brightly last season. I think we all sort of forget about that, don't we, now, with the way this out. But yeah, I think you've got to build into it with a new manager and new players. I mean, if you have such a good start, that's not necessarily a good thing, I don't think. You've just got to build into it, introduce the new players, get them into the new style of football, new training, new area. I'm sure lads are staying in hotels, etc., to start, and then finding properties and so on to bring their families. So in the early part of the season, it'll be quite difficult. But December, predominantly, winter's coming, the weather could change, the pitches will change a little bit. But yeah, I think there's a mixed bag of fixtures. Fleetwood coming down. Will they be strong? Kept the manager, didn't they, Adams? Will they be a lot stronger? I see Jaden Stockley has left this week and joined Port Vale. So he'll be a big for Port Vale up front. But yeah, I mean, there's games certainly that I would expect us to win. But it just depends on how we start the season. You know, towards the end of last season, we're thinking these are easy games or games we should be winning. But when form and confidence drops, then there's no easy game at any level. And we certainly found that out last year. So they're games to look forward to for sure. But certainly there's no easy game on paper.
If the word underachieved is used, it should be applied to Bradford City. They seem to do that every season. They're always an unknown factor, aren't they? You just don't know what they're going to do.
No, you don't. And I mean, let's be fair, they get backed by sort of 20,000 most weeks. They do a great deal for their supporters. But, you know, Mark Hughes went there a couple of years ago, which was a surprise to many. And it looked like he was getting them going. Didn't quite happen for him. And then I'm trying to think who the manager was. He went there, the old fullback. He went there and I thought he'd do a really good job.
Graham Alexander.
Graham Alexander.
I think, yeah.
And thanks, Andrew. But yeah, and when they came to Swindon, I mean, I thought it was a real tough game. But actually, I think it was Gavin Gunning's first game, wasn't it, of his? And we beat him, not comfortably, but they didn't look like they had a fight in him. And I was really surprised because Graham Allen's sides generally are robust, hard-working, but they look very they were very disappointing on the day.
Yeah, you just never know what you're going to get with them, which is odd, really. January the 1st, then, Darren, we're at home to Colchester United. Oh, Boxing Day, we should say Wimbledon away. And then the 29th, Bromley, our first meeting with Bromley in the Football League. That's on the 29th of Tuesday. Colchester at home on New Year's Day, then. On the 4th, Notts County away. Crewe home on the 11th. Barrow at home on the 18th. Newport away on the 25th of January, which again will be a Six Nations Day, I'm pretty sure. And then on the 28th, a Tuesday night at home to Tranmere. Hopefully there's a third round FA Cup fixture to put in there somewhere. What do you reckon?
I think it's a tough January, actually. So, yeah, given the point, how many games there are to play in December, yeah, you're starting to get that fixture congestion. If games are called off because of the weather, it becomes tough. Yeah, Newport away in January, that's going to be a farmer's field of a pitch again, I think. So that makes it difficult. And it's just making sure those home games, 4 home games in a month, it's absolutely pivotal to get something out of those games. And there's some experienced managers we're up against there. Danny Cowley's gone to Colchester. They were poor last year. I'm expecting them to improve. I think they might still struggle. And Tranmere have got the experience of Adkins there. So there's a couple of tough games in there. And again, I think we'll be looking to get, if you get 12 points out of those games, we won't be far off. 2 points a game is what we should be aiming for. So it's going to be tough. I think Notts County away is a particularly tough game. But we've just got to see how things play out and try to stay clear of injuries over that festive period where there's a bit more stress on the bodies.
Sure. Dale says buzzing as we have a family event in Chesterfield on the opening game, so I'll be there. Look at that. That's what you call luck, isn't it? Going back to September when we got Newport at home, that's T20 finals day at Edgbaston. So if Somerset get there, a quick dash at the final whistle, hopefully for the final at Edgbaston as well, would be rather good. Moving on to February then. Rob, Carlisle at home on the 1st, Port Vale at home on the 8th, Harrogate away on the 15th, and Chesterfield at home on the 22nd. 2 tough, long away trips.
Joyous. Absolutely joyous. What more can you say about Carlisle and Harrogate away in the same month? Consecutive games. I was fully expecting this season, I have to say. I'm a little bit tempering my answer because I thought when I looked at the fixture list as a whole, we've done okay this year, generally speaking, because I really did think we would get at least one of those horrible long treks on a Tuesday night. They're not lovely, Tranmere away on a Tuesday and then Salford away on a Tuesday, but it's not Grimsby and it's not Bradford and it's not Harrogate and it's not Morecambe and it's not Fleetwood and it's not Carlisle and it's not Barrow. So when you put it in that context, you'll take what we've got, I think. But that Carlisle fixture at the start of February, that's got PP written all over it, Tuesday night in March, I think. And Harrogate on the 15th.
Thanks for cheering us up. That's great.
Harrogate on the 15th will be FA Cup 5th round now, I think.
Yeah.
So I think you'll find that we'll be in that. So we won't need to worry about either of those two. And we'll have 2 Tuesday night tracks to fit in later on.
Marvellous. What optimism. We must stop that straight away. Hi, Richard. Vivid memories of the New York Day Colchester call-off, New Year's Day Colchester call-off in 2002. Hoping no repetition on top of last season. Will we have a loan exodus in January, says Nick? Well, we'll discuss that later. I think the whole season will be a tough one, and we need to be as fully prepared as we can be, says Mark. Kind of League Two always is, isn't it? It's always a tough season. Right, Andrew, March. Walsall away on the 1st. A Tuesday night at Salford on the 4th. Doncaster away on the 8th. The 15th is Cheltenham at home. Accrington at home. And then Morecambe at away. That's on the 29th. A lot of fixtures in March and one nice Tuesday one at Salford.
Yeah. I think this is the home one for Salford. I think away's.
Oh, you're right. Yes, my writing.
Season,
yes.
I could be no. So yeah. I suppose looking at that, you think I think we've only played Salford on a Saturday before, and goodness knows they find it hard to bring a travelling support on a Saturday. So how many Salford fans will be there on a March Tuesday if their season's going like it did last year? I'll be interested to know. I agree with Rob. Doncaster away could be pretty tough. Cheltenham and Mike Flynn coming back will be good fun, I would think. And then hopefully we will still have our unbeaten record against Morecambe intact by the time we go there. But without wishing to give away too much, I think from the sort of Walsall game onwards, the last sort of 5 or 6 away fixtures really are some of the ones that pile up the miles.
Yes, because of course we shouldn't forget that there's been a Charlie Austin link to Cheltenham. So that would be an interesting one to throw into the mix, wouldn't it? If he was, it
would be. Although I don't know if is it based on much more than them
meeting on the beach,
each other in Dubai. I don't know, but
yeah.
that's pretty strong material for an off-season transfer rumor compared to some of the Twitter websites. So you never know.
Well, a good way to fix up a deal, I would imagine, on a beach in Dubai. It seems a reasonable thing to do. Anyway, we don't know whether that's true or not. Now then, Paul, we're coming to the run-in, and this is an important time of season, of course. Wimbledon at home on the 1st of April. jokes aside, Fleetwood away on the 5th, Bradford at home on the 12th, Grimsby away on Good Friday, the 18th. Hallelujah for that. 21st, Easter Monday, Bromley at home, and then it's Gillingham away on the 26th. So, and then I'll give you the May one as well, which is MK Dons at home. Important time of the season, the run-in, you need to be in the shake-up, don't you?
No, certainly. We want to be in a much better position this season than we were last year. But there's some big teams there. Wimbledon had a good run last year, didn't they? Fleetwood, I would think they'll be there or thereabouts. Bradford, as we just touched on, unpredictable. I think Grimsby are going for it. Dave Artell, he signed quite a few players. Although they finished disappointingly last year, they'll be looking to do a lot better. Bromley, an interesting one. It'll be interesting to see how they fare this year, having come up the playoffs from the National League, and then Gillingham as well. So there's some real tough fixtures in there. Six fixtures, and it depends. Hopefully we're doing really well, but certainly there's some clubs in that group there. They'll all be fancying themselves when the fixtures have come out now and thinking, we could at least make the playoffs. So they could potentially, unless their seasons go badly wrong, they could be some real tough games. Taking out probably Bromley, who I think they'll do okay. Andy Woodman, an old teammate of mine way back at the Palace days when he was a young goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Done fantastic to get Bromley up, but I just don't see them being a force in their first year. I think if they can sustain league football, I'm sure that'll be a success for them.
Yeah, what is success for them? I mean, the trouble is we've seen the moneyed clubs come up, haven't we, lately, with the likes of Wrexham. Chesterfield have done well. And we shouldn't ever forget that, of course, the National League's fully pro, isn't it? I mean, so they're pretty well set already.
No, I agree. I mean, it is a really good league, as you said there. I mean, most of the teams, I think pretty much all of them are full-time pros. All their grounds are much better now. I went down to Eastleigh over the last 2 or 3 years watching players, and I was amazed at Eastleigh's ground. I remember their old ground on a bit of a slope. Pitch wasn't great, but now it's immaculate. I mean, they've got the sprinkler heads before and half time. The pitch is absolutely fantastic. And the stands have been built as well around the ground. So all these non-league grounds, they all have aspirations of getting into the league. And, Bromley will give it their best shot, I'm sure. And I believe that they will sustain league football come the end.
We shouldn't forget the Swindon are at Eastleigh on the 28th of July with a 1 o'clock kickoff. Andrew, am I right in that?
Yes, yeah, the
Yes.
Sunday, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, and luckily Somerset are at Hampshire the same day, so 10 minutes away, which is marvellous. So thank you very much for the fixture planners. That's a very, very good thing to do. Right, let's get an overview of the season, and then we'll get on to the signings and departures. Darren, what are your hopes for the forthcoming campaign? We're a little way away from it yet. We don't know who else is going to sign, Billy Bowden or not. We don't know, but, what are your hopes for the season?
If I cut to the chase, it would be playoffs. I hope, I think top 10 might be a bit more realistic, but I'd hope to get to the playoffs. I think there's a great opportunity with Mark Kennedy. I think it's an exciting appointment. He's well connected, and the signings indicate some ambition there. But as we've sort of touched on here, some big clubs in and around. We've touched on Bradford City, MK Dons, a bit of an unknown quantity. I think Fleetwood are one of those which I think could do really well, but with some of the off-the-field trouble they've had, what will things be like behind the scene? Doncaster Rovers, I think Paul Simpson at Carlisle knows the league. Whilst they were disappointed last season. So I can see, in Chesterfield we've touched on. So I can see there being 6 or 7 sort of big clubs with good, solid managers there or thereabouts. So playoffs, I'd really hope to get to. But first season for Mark Kennedy at the club, top 10 would not be a disaster for me at the moment, is the truth of it.
Rob, I mean, a top 10, to me, that would be realistic. It's very easy to run away with the idea we should romp League Two or at least get into the playoffs, but it's never as easy as that, as we all know. What are your aspirations?
Well, just before I answer that, Vic, I'm just thinking back 6 weeks, where, to be quite honest, if you just told me we were going to finish 22nd next season, I'd be over the moon. because based on where we were at the back end of last season, we were only going one direction, weren't we? Let's be honest. So it's quite incredible what a little time and space can do for people when you make a couple of signings, isn't it? Because we've all got that little bit of a buzz. We've all got that little bit of a better feeling about things now. I totally agree with Darren. I think Mark Kennedy, unknown quantity, admittedly, but could be the sort of manager that we need. Clearly has got a track record at Lincoln of building from the back, making sure we are solid first and foremost. We cannot have another season where Swindon concede nearly 100 goals in all competitions. That cannot happen. And I don't think there's any doubt, looking at the signings he's made so far, that he's concentrated on what has been our biggest weakness. And he's brought in big, solid centre halves. I've lost track of the number of times we've been on these conversations, on these calls before now, said we need some big quality centre halves. We got them by the looks of things. And Delaney from Newport is well thought of. Wright from Crawley was in a promotion.
Don't go into them too much. We're going to do it in a minute.
Okay,
so
but they're all
on.
they're all players who've got experience at this level and have got that opportunity to mould themselves into our folklore to get us back up the divisions. And let's just hope there's still 3 or 4 more additions to come. Probably more now in forward areas, I would think. Possibly one midfielder still needed. Maybe a little bit more strength on the wings, because we don't seem to have much of a wing option from what I can see in the squad so far. But there is that optimism back. That feel-good factor is taking it a bit too far, I think, because we can all still remember the bad days of last season. But whenever you see new players come through the door, and when you start to see, more importantly for me, a squad starting to take shape in the form that we expected to see it. We needed defensive cover. We needed defensive players in that first team. We've got that now. And now we need to see what style of play, what patterns of play Mark Kennedy wants to bring in, and can he add to that squad now to add that little bit of quality that might make a difference in the top end of the pitch.
Yeah, and early, I think, is we've all been crying out for signings to be made early, and they've made plenty of those, so that's good to know. Andrew, what are your aspirations? We should say that 4 years ago today, there was that bizarre League Two presentation trophy to Richie Wellens and his team at the county ground. 4 years ago, we won the League Two trophy in those COVID-affected days. What a season that was, but what a strange season that was for all the wrong reasons in a way. What are your aspirations?
I don't know. I think it's quite difficult to put it in terms of a position at this point, but I think the very minimum aspiration is that the oil tanker starts to turn around, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
There's been all this kind of declining momentum, and the arrival of a sort of new manager who is not entirely shop worn, but has some experience is quite interesting. So, without going too much into the signings again, there's sort of more experience, or it feels like they're a bit more recruited for a plan and with League Two in mind. So, I think what I'd probably accept is by the end of the season, feeling how we did at the end of Richie Wellens' first season, that we've got some idea of what we're doing. There's a kind of upward momentum and an energy to it. And if it's not this season, we can sort of feel genuinely that we can have a crack at it next season. So it's got to have some, that the minimum I'll say is it's got to have some kind of upward thrust to it, and to show that we're making some kind of notable progress.
Yeah, we should also mention, of course, Jamie Russell, the head of football, and Les Caffrey, who do a lot of work behind the scenes in getting these signings on board. So I think we should mention them too. Paul, I mean, Richie Wellens that first season, he was building for the second season. And boy, that second season was really good. I mean, do you get those sort of vibes from Mark Kennedy? I've met him once, and he seemed a very affable person. And you get the feeling he wants to succeed.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's a fresh job for him, a fresh outlook, new opportunity. So that's the first thing that he was looking for, that opportunity to get back in the head coaches or managers hot seat. He's got that opportunity at Swindon. And let's be honest, he could look back at last season and things should only get better. But what football's like, there's no sentiment in football for sure. So you have to get it right from the ground level. You have to put plans in place for a longer period of time. but managers don't get that, and obviously Swindon in particular, the last 3 years, what was it, 5-6 managers, and it's too many. So hopefully Mark will show everybody, as well as the supporters, who the important ones that turn up week in, week out, that there is progress. And like I said, maybe if we hit the ground running too early, then the expectations rise. So just slowly build brick by brick, and let's hope, come sort of Christmas time and then into Easter, that we're in a stronger position and we can make a run for it. But every other club will have the same aspirations, won't they? And there's no gimmies, as we've seen in the Euros. At every level of football, the coaching and the analysis and the understanding of opposition and how they play. And the county ground, I know it's starting to look a little bit tired. The pitch wasn't great last year. It's probably the worst I've seen it for a long time. But it's still a nice stadium to come and play in. And a lot of the teams that do come to the county ground make it very difficult. They do get bodies behind the ball, and then you have to be really good to break these teams down. And it's not as easy as that. So yeah, let's build brick by brick. And I'm sure, Mark, if we can see progress, and the supporters definitely need to see it. But yeah, let's look for it with optimism, and let's look forward to a positive pre-season. Although don't judge any results for sure by that. But come the opening game, Chesterfield away, hopefully there's a team moulded that will be good, but that can get better over a period of time with obviously training groundwork, and the more games, players will sort of get to the knowledge and understanding that the manager wants, both in and out of possession.
Yeah, sure. Right, let's go through these signings then, Darren. Ryan Delaney, centre-back from Newport. He's 27. Will Wright, centre-back also from Crawley, of course, in their promotion-winning side. He's 27. Rizal Ongello, who's a left-back from Accrington at the age of 24. Tamizi Sabawali, who's a right-back from Shrewsbury at 25. And the most experienced of them, Ollie Clark, who's a central midfield from Mansfield at 32. And we shouldn't forget, of course, Namdi Offerbor and Sean McGurk have also signed on their options from last season. So I guess you could say 7, but 5 new faces. How are you feeling about that?
I suspect, like many others, really positive. I think we've signed it with experience. So the levels of experience are really good. Yeah, Delaney 6'5", Will Wright 6'3". Yeah, we bought signed what I think are big solid players, which I think will help shore things up at the back. The other thing, Ollie Clark's got brilliant experience that had a go forward and win promotion, along with Will Wright, and I just got a sense that we've got characters. So we've signed not just technical players that are big units, but from reading the comments from the clubs where they're leaving, you just get a sense we've brought leaders on the pitch. And I think that's one of the things that's been lacking over the last couple of years. It just feels you've got people who want to win, want to drive on, and they're at a really important part of their own career. So they're going to be ambitious as well. So I think it's really positive, and probably just what we needed. I know we've lost a couple of players, but that defence was a real struggle for us all last year. Huge gaps in it, and I just think we've got that physicality now and the presence and the leadership that we need.
Well, let's go through those departures. Fraser Blake Tracy's gone to Mansfield. Godwin Malifa's gone to Burton. Then Shade, McEachran, Adeloy, Hepburn Murphy, Brewitt, Clayton, Austin Devine and Genesini without clubs at the moment. And also El Buzedi has gone back to AIK in Sweden. So 13 departures, 7 arrivals, if you like. You wanted big, Rob. It looks as though you might have got big.
You see the smile on my face, Vic. It's been a long time coming. Too long coming, I have to say. Excuse me. We've spoken so often about the fact that as much as you want to play football in this division, you've got to be able to defend against the big high ball down the middle, because there's too many teams in League Two who will find you out with that kind of delivery, certainly from set pieces. And we have been a shambles, quite frankly, defensively for 3 or 4 seasons. It's noticeable to me, 3 centre-backs who played last season. Okay, you may not necessarily have wanted to lose them. They've all gone. So it's a complete rebuild. We wanted a strong spine to the team. two big centre halves give you that strong spine. Let's not forget Harrison Minton. Let's not forget Harley Hunt, who came in towards the back end of that season, last season. We've got some cover there too. And don't forget Farrell Johnson, who will be pretty much a new player to most of us as well, because obviously he was injured for pretty much from day one once he came in January. So he's a big old unit too. So there's some real size in that defensive area now, which is desperately needed. Strong spine. Bycroft behind him is big enough too as a goalkeeper. And now you've got the experience of Ollie Clark in that central midfield area. Off the ball was essential to me. We had to sign on off the ball because what we saw towards the back end of this last season was that he could be that defensive midfield linchpin. With Clark one side of him and possibly Saido Khan playing a bit further forward, that suddenly gives you three very strong midfield players in there too. And that will be very, very important. And again, you've got Drinan up front, who's got some size. You've got Glatzel with a little bit of guile alongside him. You've got McGurk in there too. So suddenly you've almost now completely revolutionised what was a failing team last year into a team which you can start to look at and think there's a real opportunity now. Not saying that we're the finished article by any stretch of the imagination. Like I said a few minutes ago, still think there are gaps that need to be filled. Possibly the loan market might do that. But it's loan market this year to supplement Swindon's team. And that's the biggest issue for me. It's been the loanees have been the best players in the team, have disappeared in January. We start all over again. This time round, we've got strong players who are signed on for Swindon, and you can then bring in loan players alongside them. And if we can just get those, well, I would say we're probably squad-wise still maybe 5 short. I still think we need probably 4 or 5 more, particularly if we're going to let the odd player go here and there too. They have to be replaced. But I'm feeling totally different to what I did in April last year. My jaw was on the floor in April last year because I could only see us going one way. At least now I can see light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, Offerball, his full debut at Barrow, Andrew, was one of the highlights in a pretty dismal run-in towards the end of the season. I mean, to me, that was one of the individual performances of those last 3 or 4 months. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, definitely. What he kind of offered was really something that had been missing to I guess play the kind of Anthony Grant role there. You know, get in there, break it up, and he could kind of find a decent forward pass as well. You know, it wasn't just sort of get it up, slow things down and make it square. So as long as he can stay fit, and we all know he's had problems, then yeah, very important to get him on board. And that the midfield actually looks like it sort of starts to have a few options now. I suppose the thing we're looking for are the strikers, Paul. If you can do a bit of nudging, that's the last bit. That's where the biggest bit of money goes, and we will need quality forwards to supplement Glatzel and Dryden if we're going to have a successful season. I think
he needs to atone for that yellow shirt, Paul. He really does need to. As simple as that. I mean, as a pro, looking at this and look at this squad, what are your thoughts? Because we have been lacking some height and some dominance, haven't we? Do you think we're getting that?
Well, yeah, it certainly looks like on paper, doesn't it? These lads, in terms of their height, whether their mobility is as good as perhaps you would want, remains to be seen. But certainly, from a height perspective, you would expect them to be good in both boxes. Set pieces as both ends hasn't been great for us, as Rob mentioned earlier. So hopefully we can correct that. But yeah, it depends whether we play three big centre halves with wing backs, or do we go with a back 4 with perhaps one of the holding midfield players, Ollie, sitting in front, or Khan, or Kane, or whoever it may be. So it'll be interesting to see the shape of the team. And yeah, it's listen, the door's open for some of perhaps the younger players who've been given opportunities as well after a successful FA Youth run last year. Young Minton, he came in and had a really good spell and then got injured just at the wrong time to have a run in the team. So I'm sure, hopefully, I don't quite know his full rehab progress, but I'm sure if he can get a full pre-season under his belt, then he'll be pushing to nudge them other new guys out of the way. But so there's a little bit of competition, and you always need competition whether you play 3 or 4. The new guys will be looking to really impress. I mean, I do know Ollie quite well, and he's good friends with Bill actually. So from their Bristol Rovers playing days, what was that, 10 years ago, maybe 11, 12 years ago even. And Ollie was a young player that breaking into the team, and they gave him the captaincy at such a young age. So they could all see his leadership skills way back then. And he's gone on throughout his career. And I think even last year he was captain on a number of occasions. And it was it was great for Swindon, but I was surprised that he left Mansfield with them progressing and winning promotion. But I think it's down to his family and his daughter, his wife, expecting a baby and wanting to come back this way. But he's still, on paper, he's a very, very good acquisition for Swindon Town for sure.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing these players. Of course, our first opportunity will be a week on Saturday at Supermarine and the traditional pre-season opener, which will be a good day to see how these players fit in. And as you've said, Paul, we shouldn't read too much into pre-season because, they've got to get to know each other. I think that's they've got to know their strengths and weaknesses. And as we've seen with England, it's not easy to suddenly come up with partnerships, is it? You can't, players just are put together in a team and you expect them to play together, but it's not that simple.
No, it's not. I mean, excuse me. And certainly these boys will probably had a week's training. I think they come back on the 1st. So if they're playing Supermarine that quick, it literally will be 2 halves, different players, 20 players on the go, and we shouldn't expect too much. And the last thing we want to do is put pressure on results for pre-season. The season is what it's all about. Chesterfield on the 9th of August is the one we're going to gear to. So the manager will want to look at all the players, see their fitness levels, try and give them an understanding in possession, out of possession. We might see some new things along them lines. Tactically, how we're going to play. Technically, will these players be able to play out like, I thought Blake Tracy was very good in possession, as Godwin Malife was at times, and they showed real thrust getting forward, but they weren't mentally attuned, in my opinion, to defending first and foremost. It was almost like as if they wanted to look good footballers, and neglect their defensive duties. When if you're a defender in any team, I don't care what team you're playing in, your main role in that team is to keep the ball out of the net alongside the other defenders and goalkeeper, and that should never change. And I don't think it has changed. But for some reason last year we were just so open, and although we had a good start of the season, we still conceded goals. And my worry was when we did stop scoring as freely as we did, then if we kept conceding, we're going to find ourselves in trouble. And that's how it panned out in the end.
It did. England, of course, will point to the fact they've only got 2 goals in the tournament, but they've only conceded 1 in 3 games. So defensively, they could say they're having a decent tournament. It might send you to sleep for most of the game, but that's the way it is. Okay, let's finish on the subject of the Euros then. Let's go around. Darren, who's going to win the Euros? Look at that. Easy question for you.
I'll go Germany.
Yeah, they've looked good, haven't they, Rob?
Well, I got Germany in the sweep, so they're clearly going to win, Vic. So that's that's an easy one for me. But I think the best team in it are Spain. I have to say, I think they've got the best players, but I think this tournament might come a tournament too early for them. I think they might be better in the next World Cup. So I'll stick with the home side. Thanks very much.
Andrew, what about England? Do you think they've got a chance of winning it?
I think the draws looks like it might have opened up a bit for them potentially. So which Gareth Southgate seems to have a certain magical ability to do. It's difficult to quite see on the performances so far, but I suppose if you go back to 1990, for a long time ago, though, I think people were pretty much about to declare mutiny on Bobby Robson after the group stage, and which England kind of scrambled through, and you sort of evolve a bit. You kind of evolve a bit in the tournament, but clearly they've got to evolve a bit from what they are, because I think a lot of people have suddenly thought that taking the dog for a walk for England games is looking much more attractive than it did about 10 days ago.
I have to say the great British sewing bee was quite an attraction last night, I must admit. Actually going back to that 1990, if I remember rightly, they had to make a tactical change because of injuries, and they suddenly brought in the sweeper system, which tend to make England a much better side. I mean, who's going to win it, Andrew? briefly for you?
I must admit I do like the look of Spain, because not only can they pass the ball, but they've actually got real sort of threats running forward. So they've gone away a little bit from perhaps being too predictable, and lots of danger all over the pitch.
Paul, Romania, obviously you want to win it, and England, you'd like to win it. Who's actually going to win it?
Well, I mean, the way Germany played in the opening game against Scotland, they were phenomenal. I thought they were excellent that day, especially second half. But they haven't quite achieved them limits after that. But Spain, certainly, they're the most eye-catching in my opinion. But I am going to stick with my outsiders, my fellow countrymen, Romania, for the outside bet.
Excellent. Just remind us of that game, because Jose Mourinho figured, all these fabulous Romanian players of the past. I mean, it was an extraordinary experience, wasn't it?
It was. I got an email back in December just asking. It was the goalkeeper, actually, Florin. He played in the 1990s and went on to the World Cup. And I've kept in touch with him. He was a UEFA delegate. So I bumped into him a couple of times over the years when I was working for Wales with the intermediate groups. And I got a surprise email saying, look, would you like to come over as my guest in May? And I thought, yeah, I'd love to. I told him my situation. Obviously, I was just recovering from prostate. He said, there's a game. And I said, well, look, I won't be able to play in the game, but I'll certainly enjoy the gala dinner on the Friday night. But of course, as time went on, I felt a bit better. I'd been in the gym. I wasn't quite ready for 56,000 sellout crowd. But just to attend the gala dinner, it was a 30-year celebration of Romania getting to the World Cup and celebrating what they call was their golden generation. And, all their top players were there. They all played the next night as well at the main stadium in Bucharest. And it was a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and I got really looked after. So I have to continue my support to Romania over the coming month.
Fabulous. We wish them well, obviously. England are in action at 5 o'clock on Sunday, I think, is the date of their next game. So that's what it is. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. Paul, give our best to Billy. Wink, wink. Will you? It'd be nice to see him at some point. Thank you all very much indeed, gentlemen. And we do look forward to the 9th of August when Swindon Town are away to Chesterfield. Chris is sort of briefly coming back on again, but briefly disappearing as well. So I think what I'll do is I'll say goodnight to everybody and thank you all very much for your company. You back, Chris? Well, it's like watching I follow this, isn't it? This is. Well, it's nice to see you, Chris, anyway. Thank you very much indeed, everybody, for being with us tonight. And we'll see you on Monday night when we'll be talking to the chief executive from Fair Game and finding out exactly what is fair game. And also, hopefully, to Stuart Fleetwood, the manager of Swindon Supermarine, ahead of their friendly with the Town on the Saturday following that. So thank you very much indeed for your company tonight. And we'll see you again on Monday.
Evening, all. Yes.
This silence is brought to you by the...
For anyone about to tune into the Euros, Georgia are already ahead against Portugal.
1-0.
So there you go.
Yeah, 1-0. Yeah, absolutely.
They've played some good stuff, haven't they? They've been one of the best sides to watch as a neutral.
Yeah, I'm trying to turn it off and it won't go.
It's all right. We'll stay here all night and talk about it if you want. Yeah.
What does that do for our third place potential then? Because I know this group determines whether we play